Chances are, if you clicked on this video, you love Spyro the Dragon and are anticipating Spyro 4. And frankly, I can't blame you at all. Spyro was a hallmark of my childhood, and I have known him since I was just a boy. That said, in the Spyro series, we haven't just had Spyro, we've had a colorful cast of characters who have accompanied him across the series, which have ranged from other dragons to kangaroos and yetis. So in this very video, I intend to go over the characters that absolutely need to return in Spyro 4. Mind you, this could be anything from a cameo to a full in-game model, or in some cases, maybe even a playable character like in Crash 4. That being said, if you enjoyed the video, it'd help the channel out a ton if you drop the video a like, as well as consider subscribing for more videos like this in the future. And of course, definitely comment down below with what character you want to see return the most in Spyro 4. All out of the way, let's get into the first character that absolutely needs to come back. Which, if you were expecting anybody else to lead but Cinder for this list, you'd unfortunately be wrong. You see, Cinder has been everywhere in Spyro except for the original timeline and trilogy. The primary continuity being the games of the original 3 from Insomniac, as well as The Hero's Tale and Enter the Dragonfly and the GBA games. However, ever since her appearance in the Legend of Spyro series, she has been a hallmark character for the entirety of Spyro. She has appeared as a playable character in Skylanders, as well as she's even made her debut in the TV show as Malaphor's daughter, which is a little different than the TLOS timeline, but I'll let it slide. You can have Cinder fill something of an equivalent role to Coco from the Crash Bandicoot series, where she kinda subs in for Spyro. However, if you are a big fan of the storytelling in the Legend of Spyro series, you'd probably want to see the character of Cinder take on a bigger role. More suitably, maybe even she becomes the villain again. I think that could be really cool. Or maybe there's an alternate universe where rather than Spyro saving the Dragon Kingdom, it was actually Cinder, and they meet up. This might sound a lot like the plot of A Rift Apart from the Ratchet & Clank series. Or maybe even it sounds a little bit like Crash 4 It's About Time, but either way, I think this type of use for a character could be really cool. However, if I had to pick one application, it would just be I want her to be playable in some aspect. Or even have a cool boss fight where she's a baddie again. One or the other, that would be really cool. And speaking of cool female love interest for Spyro, we have to go on to his very first, that being Elora. Now, back when Allora debuted back in Spyro 2, she was automatically an iconic character of the series, as she was featured as something of a chronicler for the Allora realms. She worked alongside her friend Hunter and the Professor to bring dragons to the world, that way they could defeat Ripto. And of course, at the beginning of that game, we find out that first dragon that comes through is Spyro. Well, I say first, more like only. Nevertheless, Allora is super cool and she contributed a lot to Ripto's rage and or Gateway to Glimmer if you're from across the pond. So to see her back in sort of a similar role where maybe she's detailing out worlds for you with like a guidebook would be really cool. Realistically though, I don't know if I would like to see her playable strictly because what would she really do that's different from Sheila? She could kick things, like I said, just get Sheila back at that point. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if they redefine her and give her some cool gadgets here and there, she could be a really fun character to play. Now, while I may not be the most excited to see Allora be playable, I would, however, be super excited to see Bianca be playable. Now, hear me out. There's a lot of functionality to Bianca just because she has magic, which, when you have magic, you can kind of do anything with it and there's no rules to be broken. Well, she only has magic when the dragons are around. Okay, she's hanging around with Spyro all the time, so she's always gonna have magic. And who knows, maybe the Professor finds a way to harness that magic and give her sort of a supply like a battery. So you can play full levels as Bianca or sections as Bianca where you do puzzle solving and stuff like that with her. Personally, I think out of all the characters in Spyro 3, the biggest missed opportunity was with Bianca. As rather than getting Agent 9 at the end, I always thought, why don't we just get Bianca to help us in the Sorceress fight? Which she kind of does in Super Bonus Round, but it's not really as cool if it's not the actual final boss. Which again, you can kind of say it is, but I've always thought of the Super Bonus Round as what it says in the name, a bonus. So while she didn't exactly get to go toe-to-toe with the Sorceress, I would like to see her go toe-to-toe with whatever adversary we have to face in Spyro 4. And with Spyro 4, I want 4 more characters to return, those being the 4 Dragon Guardians. Those being Ignitus, Terrador, Volteer, and Cyril. Now, I know not everybody loves all of the Dragon Guardians, and frankly, I don't necessarily blame you. However, I do believe that Ignitus at the very least should come back in some capacity, as to the Legend of Spyro series, he was such an impactful character. Frankly, when I was a little kid, watching Ignitus get engulfed in flames and essentially die brought me to tears. You know, I was about like 12 at the time, but it was still really emotional. And over the course of the Legends games, he was something of a father figure to Spyro. And while I don't necessarily think that's needed 100%, it would be a really nice thing to add into the story of Spyro 4. And when it comes to the other 3 Dragon Guardians, I feel like if you have Ignitus, you should probably bring the other 3. You could even go the route of teaching Spyro different flame breaths, but hopefully they don't add a 5th Dragon Guardian and we can keep as far away from Bubble Breath as we can from Enter the Dragonfly. I'm begging you, whoever's making Spyro 4, please don't make me catch dragonflies with terrible Bubble Breath ever again. Please. But yeah, if I saw Ignitus in a trailer for Spyro 4, I would instantly pull out my wallet and give them my money. Speaking of money, the very next character I want to bring up is Moneybags. And I know this one's a little bit controversial because everybody hates Moneybags. Frankly, I don't blame you, as Moneybags is kind of meant to be disliked by most players. However, I do think him being in the game is a really nice callback to the original trilogy. Of course, he got his time to shine again in the Reignited versions, but I do believe that if we get a Spyro 4 or Project Rainbow, whatever it's being called, it'll likely follow off the original game's timeline, meaning that Moneybags may just be a necessary evil when constructing the game. And you know, love him or hate him, he was a big part of our childhood, and we loved to hate him. Speaking of characters we love to hate, I'm going to take a trip back to the Legend of Spyro and talk about my boy, Malaphor, who I will stand as the single best villain in all of the Spyro series. You can say Red was pretty cool, you can say Nasty Norik was pretty cool, you'd be wrong, but you can say it. Ripto's a close second, but Malaphor 100% takes the cake when it comes to being this nefarious big bad at the end of the game. You see, they did such a good job at building up the Dark Master Malaphor over the course of 3 games. So much so that when it came time to fight him at the end of The Legend of Spyro Dawn of the Dragon, I was just going wall to wall like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna beat this? Again, mind you, I'm like 11 when this is happening, but I was absolutely floored with how cool that boss fight was for me as a kid. I've since gone back through and replayed it a little bit. It's a little bit wonky here and there with the 2-player controls, but you know what I mean. But it was still really cool, and Malaphor as a character is 100% top tier when it comes to Spyro characters. So to see him come back as something of a big bad, or maybe even just throw a complete Hail Mary, instead of making Ignitus the father figure, make Malaphor the dad. You know, they're both purple, it could work. Nah, I'm just joshing you on that one. But I definitely think that Malaphor would be a great addition to Spyro 4 as just a big bad. You can build him up a little bit, you can have a nice long game like Crash 4 and have him be the end villain. You can even keep him a mystery until the very end, it would still be super cool for fans of that series. And while I will go on and on about how cool Malaphor is, we should take a moment and talk about my next entry, that being Crush. Now you might remember Crush as the first boss in Spyro 2. He's that big blue guy with the club, and he just tries to wallop you while rocks fall from the ceiling and hit him in the head. Fun fact, if you're speedrunning the original version of Spyro 2, you can actually do a double jump out of bounds to get into him in about a minute. However, for as easy as it is to get to Crush, once you're out of him, you never see him again. However, you see Gulp once, you see Gulp twice in the form of Mecha Gulp in the Ripto boss fight, but you never see Mecha Crush. Now this is where my mind's going with it, because I just want to see Crush one more time. If only because Gulp got a second appearance, I really felt like Crush should. I will say that this was sort of a meme pick, but my next one is probably even memeier. Now this pick isn't exactly one specific character, but it's the overlying existence of Bikini Dragonesses from A Shadow Legacy. You heard me right, in Spyro A Shadow's Legacy on the DS, there are bikini-wearing dragons. I promise you that this entry is a complete joke, but I felt the need to bring it up when talking about characters from the Spyro series, because otherwise I'd have no reason to talk about them. Unfortunately, A Shadow Legacy is probably the worst Spyro game overall. There's nothing that goes on, it's pretty bad, and apparently there are dragons in bikinis. Yep, dragons in bikinis. And while dragons probably shouldn't wear bikinis, sheep probably shouldn't wear Reaper outfits. Which is where my next entry, Toasty, comes in. Toasty entered the series as something of a comedic boss, and I think that concept is super fun. Specifically because it was just a bunch of sheep in a trench coat. It was like they were doing that trick from the Goonies, but with a Reaper outfit. And the reason why I do think he should come back is because, again, it would be a nice callback to OG, while simultaneously giving new players something funny to laugh at. I think regardless of if you experience the old games Reignited or original, you'd almost certainly still get a kick out of Toasty. Now we're on to the final character that I think needs to return for Spyro 4, and that is Nestor. Who, if you don't know, if you were to load into Spyro 1 right now and just walk forward a few steps, you would encounter him by freeing him. He is the dragon that gives you the directions on what to do to defeat Nasty Nork. However, following his appearance telling you what to do at the beginning of the game, you never see him again. You would have figured after you're about to go into Nasty's loot, you would meet him, but no, you actually encounter Magnus instead. As far as it goes in-game, I think Nestor would be a good addition if he were to give Spyro something like missions to do. Like, let's say for argument's sake, you can go back to the Forgotten Realms in Spyro 3, and Nestor's just like, yeah, go retrieve a couple eggs. You know, and then maybe you get some XP and you upgrade your Flame Breath. I'm not necessarily saying that that should be a gameplay mechanic, but there are different things that you can do with Nestor like this, where he can be something of an authority character giving Spyro orders or things to do. I also just like the Artisan's Dragon's designs. Specifically, Nestor's is probably the coolest among them. But anyway, those are all the characters for Spyro 4 that I think should return in some capacity. Now, whether or not all of these, if any of them, do appear, is ultimately going to be up to whoever's making Spyro 4 and if Spyro 4 is even coming out. However, as I am an eternal optimist, I would like to declare to you right now that Spyro 4 will 100% happen as we the fans want it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, again, it would really be appreciated if you leave it a like as it helps the channel out a ton. And if you have any other characters that you think should have made it on this list or should be in Spyro 4, definitely let me know about them in the comments below. Furthermore, while you're heading down that way to either like or comment, if you want to subscribe for more content like this in the future, I'll be putting out more videos like this hopefully soon. But anyway, for right now, I think I'm gonna dip. As always, I hope you stay safe and be bold, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.